Okay, so in this video we're going to look at adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing algebraic terms. So we're going to start off with some very basic rules for each. If you take, for example, x and you add x, you get 2x. If you take x and you multiply by x, you get x squared. This is the basic rule. And you need to clarify these two in your own minds when you do any kind of algebraic multiplication, division, adding and subtracting. When you're adding two x's, you get 2x. When you multiply, you add the powers, if you like. That's x to the power of 1. This is x to the power of 1, so you add the two powers and you get x to the power of 2. Now, to do some simple example, I'll do adding and subtracting first. So to take a very simple example, if you take, say, two, let's say, elephants, and we're going to add 3 elephants, you end up with 5 elephants. It's exactly the same in maths. If you take 2 x's and you add 3 x's, you get 5 x's. Now, to just bring that on a little bit further, if you have 2x and you add 3 y's, you can't add these together because they're two completely different things. It's like saying if I had 2 elephants and I added 3 giraffes, let's say, I still have 2 elephants and I still have 3 giraffes. I can't add the giraffe to the elephant. So x's and y's are completely different things. You can't add them together, so you still end up with 2x plus 3y. Now, if you take, for example, 2xy plus 3y squared minus xy plus 5y squared. Let's have a look at doing this one. So what you do is you look at it first and you say, well, what am I doing? Am I adding and subtracting, or am I multiplying and dividing? Well, I'm on this side of the line. I'm looking at these terms, these functions here. These are adding and subtracting, so I'm adding and subtracting algebraic terms. So I need to look for things that are similar so that I can add them. Like the elephants, I need to add elephants to elephants. I need to add giraffes to giraffes. It's exactly the same here. So you're looking for like terms. So let's have a look at what we've got to start with. Well, we have an x, y, and we have 2 of them. We have 2 of these x, y's. So you look along here to see, are there any other x, y's, and we see we do have an x, y here. And we actually have minus 1 of them. There's a 1 here, we usually don't put it in, but we have minus 1 of them. So what we end up with here is plus 2x minus 1y, so it's 2 minus 1, which is 1 x, y. Now, we look along to our next term. We haven't done anything with these two here. So let's look at them and see what we've got. We have a y squared here, and we have a y squared here. So you look at those two and you say, well, can we add them? Well, they're the same anyway. They're y squared, so they're the same, so we can add them. So we have plus 3 of them, and we have plus 5 of them. So 3 plus 5, that will give us plus 8 of these y squareds. Now when you look at your answer here, you've got an xy and you've got a y squared. Two completely different things. You can't add them, so that's it. We're finished. Let's look at another example. Let's look at, say, 3x squared y plus 2xy minus 2x squared y plus 3xy. So we're going to look at these, and we know that we're adding and subtracting here, so we need to look for like terms. So we look at the first thing here. We have an x squared y. So we want to look along here and see, do we have any other x squared y's here? Well, we do. We have an x squared y here. So we can add these two together. So we have 3 of them here, and we have minus 2 of them. So 3 minus 2 is 1. So we end up with x squared y. Just 1x squared y. Now, we're going to look along here again at our next term. We've got an xy. Do we have any other xy's? Well, we do. We have an xy here at the end. So we can add these two. So we look at those two, and we have plus 2 of them, and then we have plus 3 of them. So that gives us plus 5 of these xy's. And that's it. We have an x squared y here, we have an xy here. These are two completely different things. We can't add them together. So this is our answer. So that's it for adding and subtracting. Let's have a look at multiplying and dividing, and see how we go with this. So let's take some simple examples. First of all, let's just take, say, a 2x, and we're going to multiply it by a 3x. Now, when you look at this, you can see there's no adding and subtracting here. So we're not doing this type of thing here. We're not looking for like terms to add or subtract. We're multiplying. So what does this actually mean? Well, 2x is actually 2 times x. So actually what we've got here is 2 times x. Then we've got this times here as well. And then we've got a 3x. So that's 3 times x. So we've got 2 times x times 3 times x. Now, because multiplication is commutative, that just means that we can move all of these around, and it doesn't change the answer. Commutative just means, for example, if you have 2 times 3 will give you 6, 3 times 2 will also give you 6. You can switch them around. So multiplication is commutative. So we can switch all of these around. So for example, this here is just the same as 2 times 3 times x times x. And if you look at that, you've got 2 times 3, which will give us 6. X times x, as we have up here, will give us x squared. So that's a very basic example. You can you don't have to go through all of this here. You can look at this and say, well, it's all multiplying. So 2 times 3 will give me the 6. X times x will give me the x squared. Just add the powers. So let's have a look at another example. If you take, let's say, 3x squared, we're going to multiply that by 2y. What will we get here? Now, what's actually happening here is you have 3, you're multiplying it by x, and you're multiplying it by x. This is 3x squared. Now you're multiplying all of this by 2 times y. So everything here is multiplied. So let's just do that out. We can multiply this 3, because multiplication is commutative, we can multiply this 3 by 2, and we'll get 6. We've got an x multiplied by x multiplied by y. Now x times x we know will give us x squared, and we're just left with our y here. We can't multiply the x by the y to get anything else. It's just x squared y. So this is our answer here. So this is what we started with, 3x squared times 2y. We multiplied the 3 by the 2 and we got 6. X squared, there's no x squareds here, no x's here at all, so we're just left with x squared. There's a y here, there's no y here, so we're just left with y here in our answer. Let's look at another example. If you take, for example, 4x squared y, and we're going to multiply that by 3xy squared. Let's have a look at this and see what we end up with. So generally what you would do here is, actually, you know what we might do here is we'll just change this to a minus. So we're multiplying minus 4x squared y by a 3x plus 3xy squared. So we're multiplying a negative number by a positive number. So let's see what we do here. Generally what you would do in this situation is you can do it a long way, and you can multiply it all out like this, expand it all out and put all the like terms together and multiply them and so on. But really you should get used to just doing them directly by, first of all, in this case, let's do the signs first, then we'll multiply the numbers, then we'll multiply the letters individually. So let's have a look and see how this works. We have a minus here, and we're multiplying it by a plus. Negative multiplied by a positive. That's going to give us a minus, because the signs are different. When you multiply signs that are different, you get a minus. Now, we have the signs done. Next thing you concentrate on would be the numbers. So 4 multiplied by 3 will give us 12. So now we've done the signs, we've done the numbers, now let's do the letters. So we have an x squared here, and we have an x here. I'm going to multiply these two together. So x squared multiplied by x, we add the powers. This is x to the power of 1 if you like. So it's x squared times x to the power of 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, so it's x cubed. X times x times x is x cubed. Now we multiply the y by the y squared. So we're multiplying y by y times y. This is our y squared. We're multiplying by y. That gives us y cubed. Y times y times y. Y to the power 1, y to the power 1, y to the power 1. Add the powers, you get y cubed. So our answer is minus 12 x cubed y cubed. Now that's really as far as I'm going to go with multiplication. Let's have a look at some division. Let's take, for example, a very simple example, x, and we're going to divide it by x. Well, first of all, anything divided by itself is just 1. So in other words, x divided by x will give us 1, x divided into that x will give us 1, 1 divided by 1 is just 1. Very simple example. Let's look at another example. Let's take 4x divided by x. Now in this case you have 4 multiplied by x, and you're dividing that by x. So that's going to give us 4, because this x and this x will simply cancel, or that x will divide into that x and we'll just get 1. X divided by x will give us 1. So 1 times 4 is 4. Let's look at another example. Let's take 6x, we're going to divide that by 2. Now in this case you've got 6 times x, you're dividing by 2. So in this case the 6 will divide by the 2 and we'll get 3. We've got an x here, there's no x's down here to divide into it, so we're just left with 3x. Let's try another one. Let's take 6x, we're going to divide that by 2x. Well, this is 6 times x divided by 2 times x. Well, in this case the 6 will divide by the 2, that'll give us 3. The x will divide by the x. X divided by x is 1, so it's 1 times 3, which is just 3. Let's try another one. Let's take 10x squared y, divide that by, let's say, minus 5xy. So this is a more complicated one. Now, in this case, you do what we did earlier when we were multiplying something like this. Do the signs first, do the numbers next, and then do the letters individually. So let's take the signs first. We have a plus here, and we're dividing by minus. Plus divided by minus is minus. So now we have the signs done. You can forget about signs from now on. Now just concentrate on the numbers. 10 divided by 5 will give us 2. So now we've done the signs, we've done the numbers, we can just concentrate on the letters now. So concentrate on the letters individually. Let's take the x's first. We have an x squared and we're dividing it by x. So we have an x times x, which is our x squared, and we're dividing that by x. That will cancel with that, and we're just left with x. So x squared divided by x will just give us x. And we have a y divided by y, which will just give us 1, in fact. Y divided by y is 1, so we have 1 times minus 2x, which is just minus 2x. So these will just cancel. So our answer is minus 2x. Just take one more example and we'll finish up then. Let's take 15x squared yz divided by 3xz. So in this case we'll actually make this a minus here on top. So we're dividing minus 15x squared yz by plus 3xz. So first of all, what I'm going to do is do the signs first. Minus divided by plus is minus. 15 divided by 3, 5. X squared divided by x, that x will cancel with one of these x's and I'm just left with an x. Y divided by, there's no y down here, so there's nothing to divide it by, so it's not going to be affected at all. And then you've got the z divided by z. Z divided by z is just 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So I just end up with a 1 here. 1 times all of this is just going to be minus 5xy. So my answer is just minus 5xy. So that's it. So just remember the basic rules. When adding an x to an x, you get a 2x. You look for like terms. All the way along you look for like terms and you add the like terms. Multiplying means you multiply, say, an x by an x, you get an x squared. What you need to do is add the powers where you have the same base. So x to the power of 1 times x to the power of 1 is x to the power of 2, and so on. Okay, so that's it for this lesson.